Okay, guys. So first of all, welcome in today. I want to share some exciting news. I have a lot of things I want to share with you guys today. But first of all, we're going to start with some exciting news. I wanted to share this last week, but I totally forgot about this. I guess I wanted to jump straight into what I was going to be sharing with you guys last week. But episode 25 finally is going to hear it. So this is a win. I'm excited about sharing. So exciting news. I was featured and nominated and featured, should I say, for the South Carolina Voyager magazine. And this is a local magazine. Now, for some, that's maybe not too big of a deal, but I think it's a huge deal. I'm super excited for that. So I was not expecting that. They reached out to me about, I think it was like last year in 2023. And they told me that I was nominated. It was a follower of mine, and I would also consider her a really good friend too. And she was one of the she nominated me for to be featured in this magazine. And so they reached out to me and said that they would love to get my story in the article. Their editorial um, staff reached out, so it's really cool. And so the article, they just basically asked me, this is the screenshot of the beginning of it. They asked me how I got started as an influencer. So if you don't know my background, I got started in social media first as a beauty and fashion influencer, and then started my channel here on Exit America News, and of course on my other platforms as well, uh, on the political arena. And so this is how I kind of got started. So this was really exciting. The paper went out last week, and they just basically asked me about my journey becoming an influencer and a content creator, because if you don't know, they are two different things. Whereas a creator, you're just basically making videos for brands, you're making ads for them. And I've had a lot of my followers say, I saw you in an ad on YouTube, etc., and some friends tell me that as well, which is super exciting to hear. But those videos don't necessarily get posted to my followers where I make money through that means. So influencing is basically you build your own following, and then from that trusted following, you make money by promoting different brands, items, and making brand deals. So I do both of those, and I enjoy both of those arenas and both of those methods of making income. So yeah, so they asked me about my journey doing that, and it was really cool to reflect. And every time I reflect, I have to think about God, because there would be no me without God. And so I had to think about what he did for me, how he allowed me to conquer those hurdles. As I say at the beginning of this podcast, that we're already walking in victory, but in order for you to go from victory and victory to victory, there's a battle always in between, right? You can't really call it a victory if there's no battle. So all of us face that. And so I hope that this article or this magazine encourages you. If you get a chance to read it, you can go to southcarolинavoyager.com. If you type in my name, Aisha Shrana, you should find me there as well. And it was an honor to be featured in this local magazine. So it was really exciting. And I hope it encourages you guys that wherever you are in your journey, to keep going. Don't look around, don't compare. Just remember, set it as a memorial what God has done. I love that God tells the Israelites all the time to make a memorial. Remember what I've done for you. Remember how my righteous right hand parted the Red Seas, and you still went through the desert, but your shoes didn't wear out, and all these things, right? So he tells us that so we can remember where we come from and we don't forget him. And so I love that, because it gets me to reflect on my journey with God, and to be grateful for how far I've come versus looking at how far I have to go, right? Because I'm not arrived. But the journey is beautiful, and I'm going to celebrate the little small wins that I get. The Word of God says that He loves to see the work begin. And so I want to take that perspective. And this was really awesome. It was a great privilege to be featured in this magazine. They also offer that I get printouts of the magazine. So I'm going to get like 5 printouts so I can give to my family members and friends as well. So it was really awesome. So I had to share that with you guys. Great win. Super exciting. Now, in other news that we have, let's talk about the one that's got a lot of us scratching our heads this week, and it is Nicki Minaj showing up at Mar-a-Lago, smiling ear to ear with President Donald Trump, and then doubling down on social media that she's been basically a quiet Trump supporter for a long time. Who would have thought? And I love her stance. So, she came on the scenes thanking Donald Trump for doing something about the executions of Christians and other religious groups in Nigeria. And as a result, I read that she lost some followers, that she may have even lost some brand deals as a result of that, possibly. And I can say that I don't listen to Nicki Minaj in any form or fashion, like in terms of her music, or watch the things that she puts out. But this, of course, grabbed my attention because I'm following Donald Trump. I think politics is something we all should be at least have some type of knowledge about and know what's going on, because it is for our betterment. To know what's happening and know how we can take advantage of even the markets, right? To live the American dream. So just to know what's happening. And so of course she's a part of that now, because of her amazing and beautiful stance with people that are being persecuted in Nigeria. And I love her courage. I love her stance for what is right. It's surprising to me how many conservatives I've seen in the comment section. Some of them might not be necessarily Christian, but they are identifying as conservatives that have a lot of negative things to say about her. I guess based off of, or looking back, should I say, at Kamala Harris's campaign, where you had Beyonce and all these other women basically standing up for, I would consider, more selfish reasons, because they're more so like, oh, let's shake our butts, let's have somebody that's going to allow us to shake our butts and be provocative and keep that at the mainstream of things, and also allow us to continue to have reign over our body. We can abort beings that did nothing wrong in the first place. So to me, that's more of a selfish stance. And Nicki Minaj, when I watched her speech, which I'm going to give you guys a short clip of that, she was very classy. I'm a beauty and fashion influencer. I'm really glad I stated that at the beginning of this podcast, because I do pay attention to hair, nails, and all that stuff, because those are the things that I enjoy. And Nicki Minaj is, not at all far from that. She always keeps herself bedazzled. And this time, though, I don't know if she, stopped wearing nails because of being pregnant. Because I remember hearing something about that. I don't know for sure, but she came and I thought she looked really classy. She didn't even have nails on. She had a beautiful black dress on. She was very nice and modest. Hair's nice. She looked great, and she had a speech that she delivered that I thought was very well articulated, and I thought she did an amazing job with that, considering the comment section of people just calling her different names that I've seen. And I really don't appreciate that criticism of her. I know that we are on a different spectrum of things that we believe, but I definitely admire her stance on this. Now, full transparency, I'm going to say what a lot of people have said, and what a lot of people are thinking, is that, her music, her videos, the way that she presents herself to the world, that is not, the fruit of someone walking, of course, closely with Jesus. The imagery, the language, the hypersexualization is the opposite of modesty, purity, and glorifying God with our bodies. And I'm not judging her soul, that's above my pay grade. But the word of God does tell us that we can call them out by the fruit. And a lot of her public fruit doesn't line up with the holiness scripture calls us to. So how do we process this as Bible believing conservatives who also love the president and what he is doing, and admire those that stand up for those very same values and principles? So here's where I land, and I think scripture backs this up. So think about the people Jesus ate dinner with, like the tax collectors, like Matthew and Zacchaeus, greedy Rome collaborating sellouts everyone hated, right? Think about the sinful woman in Luke 7 who washed his feet with her tears while the religious folks clutched their pearls. Jesus never once never once endorsed their lifestyle, but he did receive them and he loved them. And he let them come close, because some of them were taking their first steps into repentance and truth. And even if they still had a long way to go. So I think we can appreciate, her stance and where, how, her position in this. And Paul gives us another lens in 1 Corinthians 9:22. He said, I've become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. So Trump's table right now is a very big tent. And I actually think that's strategic. When you think about Jeffree Star, who basically stood up for Charlie Kirk, and when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and he lost, I believe, 300,000 followers, something huge like that. And Jeffree Star, if you don't know him, he is a beauty creator. And I believe he's homosexual, just the way that he presents himself and put himself out. He has his own line, and a lot of people in the beauty space respect his voice on what he has to say about certain products and stuff. And then you had Amber Rose, if you remember her, she was at the beginning of the campaign, or during the campaign, should I say, with Donald Trump. And she spoke out. And then now we have Nicki Minaj. So people who live in ways that are 180 degrees from biblical morality are willing to stand up and say, actually, the left has lost its mind on the trans issue, or on the economy, or on free speech. That's a crack in the dam. And I can be grateful for that crack without celebrating the lifestyle that built the dam in the first place. So I'd rather have Nicki Minaj using her massive platform to push back against childhood medical transition and Marxism insanity than have her silent on the other side. Even if tomorrow she drops another video that makes me want to throw my phone in holy water, right? So it's still something to celebrate, and I do appreciate her boldness and her stance. So bottom line, we don't have to marry the messenger to appreciate the part of the message that happens to be true. And that's so much from Nicki Minaj. Now I have some clips I want to show if you haven't seen these yet. I have a little small clip of her speech, and I will show you how classy she was with this. It wasn't like like what we saw during Kamala's campaign, but I feel like Nicki Minaj really came and she knew where she was, and she not, I wouldn't say played a plot part or played a role. I think there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for you to dress a certain way. Like if you're going to a gala, you're going to dress a certain way. If you're going to church, you're going to dress a certain way. If you're home and you're relaxing, you're going to dress a certain way. And I think she understood the assignment. So here's a speech from Nicki Minaj.
I would like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief.
Beautiful. I mean, small little snippet of it, but very well articulated. I think that was really, really well done. She's standing for something she believes in, and it's something that's, I would say, admirable and valuable. The lives of people. And I went to her page because I had to pull up these videos of her and found out what's going on. And there were Nigerians that were saying, "Thank you so much for standing up for us. Thank you for being a voice." Like she used her platform to be a voice for the voiceless, for people that need help. This is their life on the line for what they believe, and I just admire her for that. We're gonna play this next clip. This is her being gifted a hoodie.
One better. Ah ha ha! There we go. So you now have a whole amazing UN barbs. Or now you're United Nation barbs. Yeah. Thank you both. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much for having me. When I tell you guys how honored I am, I don't think you understand my past.
Now they ended that video there, but you can even see her gratitude for just being being invited to the White House, right? Like she's such gratitude. They gave her something that I think kind of meets them halfway on what she, what things that she likes, and she loves pink, right? So I feel like they were meeting her halfway to celebrate her stance and coming in alignment with the Trump administration on this issue. And I thought, again, the whole situation is admirable. I love it. Now, I also want to share this clip because I shared with you guys that there was there was also some naysayers, of course, that have something to say about her standing because she is a celebrity, a rapper, and people are like, stay out of politics. But it's like, no, this is America. That we have free speech, and she has a platform for a reason. And I think you use that platform for good. You're responsible for the people that are hearing you, that want to you hear what you have to say. And I again, the whole thing I think was admirable. But here is her interview with Fox News.
Especially as artists and people in entertainment, I think it sometimes can feel scary to speak up about anything that may not be the norm or the popular thing to speak about. I never care if something is popular. I care about what rings true to me, to people who are going through hard times right now in Nigeria. I hope that when they see this being done, that it makes them feel heard, that it makes them feel like, okay, someone cares, yeah.
And they did. I shared with you guys. Proof is in the pudding. When you go on her X account, it's flooded with thank you messages. And she might have gotten even more privately, but what I could see was that she was flooded with a lot of comments under her different posts, just thanking her for that stance, right? Even if it cost her followers, if it cost her, money and all that, she made that stance. So it was beautiful. The title of this episode, guys, I'm going to get back to that because we're talking about the different alliances with Trump. So here's my title for this episode. I think this is really good. Big Tent, Bigger God. Nicki Minaj, a socialist mayor, and Epstein reckoning. And then plus we shared my big news at the beginning of this podcast. So we're going to get into Zohran Mamdani because, as you know, I believe it was yesterday that he had a meeting with President Trump. He asked to be invited or asked to come to the White House so he could sit down with President Trump to talk about his policies and plans as the mayor of New York City. And so we're going to get into that right after this ad break. Our first sponsor is going to be Your Skincare, one of the skincare brands that I absolutely love. It's one of my top ones that I recommend, and that is why they're a sponsor in today's podcast. So take a look. Brand is also one of my favorites, and this brand is called Your Skincare. This brand has tons of different options that you could choose from. They also have an A to Z set and also individual products that you can use. I've actually been using this brand for a full year, and their stuff delivers, and I often get compliments on my skin. So I'm super excited to share this one with you guys today. There are 2 products that I'm going to share in this video out of their entire line. So the first one is going to be the Purifying Clay Mask, and this clay mask, ladies, is like no other clay mask I have ever tried. It is top notch. And the reason why is because it has bentonite clay, salicylic acid, and glycolic acid as the 3 main active ingredients. That bentonite clay is going to help to detoxify the face. You have salicylic acid that allows this clay mask to tackle acne in 15 minutes. You will see your acne breakout totally diminished, and by the next morning, completely gone, just by using the clay mask. Also, this clay mask helps to tighten, firm, lift, and also brighten. And you will notice your skin brighten within your first use of using it. Yes, you heard that right. Usual clay mask, it takes about 3 weeks for you to see that change, but this is the very first clay mask I have ever used that you see the change in your first use of using it. It is that powerful. Also minimizes and cleans out the pores as well, and just leaves you with this beautifully radiant skin. Now, if you have dry skin, it's recommended to use this clay mask once a week, and if you have oily skin like myself, you can use it up to twice a week. I'm telling you guys, when I use this clay mask, I really feel like my skin is set for the next few months before needing to go in with it again. The next product from them is going to be their lip balm. I love this lip balm because it has hyaluronic acid, shea butter, jojoba seed oil as your 3 main active ingredients, notwithstanding that there are inactive ingredients also that are also all oils. There's peppermint oil, fruit oil in here, raspberry seed oil, etc. Castor oil is also in here as well. So you have great ingredients in this lip balm, and this lip balm is made to tackle fine lines and wrinkles on the lips and also seal in moisture and plump the lips. I love it. And it's not a lip plumper, but it does make the lips look very nicely plumped and extremely hydrated. It is like a fan favorite from this brand. I have to say that all the products from Your Skincare are all formulated for sensitive skin. They're all clean, it's recyclable, it's all made here in the USA, and you can also use any of their products when you are pregnant. I love this brand so much that I had to partner with them. And so I go live on TikTok, and they allow me to do giveaways, and I'm live for at least 2 hours doing these giveaways with my followers, and also live stream exclusive discounts. And these are discounts you can't get if you're not shopping live with me. So ladies, if you do want to hop in and you want to grab some free stuff for yourself, I highly recommend you follow me on TikTok, because that is where it is popping when it comes to all of these brands. Also, check that out. And remember that true beauty comes with living in the peace of God, purpose, and a life full of love and serving others. Again, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you subscribe, I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Okay, make sure you guys check out Your Skincare. I absolutely love this brand. I use it to this day. I've been using this brand since 2023 when I first started on TikTok, okay? Promoting, different products. So this was one of my first brands, and I was one of their first influencers on TikTok specifically. The brand has been around for, way longer than 2023, but they started in TikTok around the same time I did. So it was really cool. And I'm still partnered with them today. As you can see, I love this brand. They do both skincare and makeup products, and it's bomb. Their makeup drops are all clean. They pride themselves on that, and the fact that it is great for sensitive skin, that you can use it when you're pregnant. I love all of that about this brand. So if you want to check it out, I have some codes for you. If you want to go to my Amazon storefront, feel free to do that. You can use the code Aisha15 off, and you see that little code there in the side of that picture there. And then if you want to go to the website, here's the way you get a little bit of extra perks. You can go to the link there. I would screenshot this if you can, or if you're watching via YouTube, Rumble, etc., you can easily find my show notes, and there you can click on the link, and it will take you to where you can find the whole kits for a whole system, should I say, for this brand. They do have an AI skincare tool that helps you to figure out which products actually will work for the issues that you have. And then with that, your account will be matched for free birthday gifts, free refills, and free shipping, which is awesome. So take advantage of that. If you go straight to the website, that is the perks for that. If you're going through my Amazon storefront, it is a 15% off discount only. Okay, so check it out. Okay, so now let's pivot to one of the most surprising headlines from this week, and that's President Trump's Oval Office sit down with our current New York City's incoming mayor, Zohran Mamdani, or current mayor, should I say, Zohran Mamdani. If you blinked, you might have missed it, how this went. but it was a seemed like it was a very positive and productive meeting based on Donald Trump and him being together and there not being any type of discord like we saw with Zelensky, right? When Zelensky first came to the White House, I saw some people's comments saying at least he came with a suit. It was hilarious. But this seemed to be really good, and as a diehard Trump supporter, who I am, who bleeds red, white, and blue in the greatest city in the world, I think this was New York. I think this was great. I think Donald Trump loves New York, is what I'm saying, and this was a really good meeting. So first of all, let me step back and give credit where credit is due. I'm going to reiterate that it was Mondani who reached out and asked for the meeting. It was a very smart move, I think, for Mr. Mayor elect, because you just won an amazing campaign promising to make New York affordable and safe again. But the reality check is that federal muscles matter with that type of move, with the things that you want to do and what you promise the residents of New York. And I can say that I do believe that Zoran Mondani definitely wants to make that happen, because he had to swallow his pride to go up there and meet with Donald Trump. I think he should have taken the advice from Sliwa and Cuomo during the debate when they said, if you want to get the things done that you're saying you want to get done, you're going to need Trump. You can't do it by yourself. You're only mayor, dude. Right? They told him that. And they said they know how Trump works. They didn't capitulate to Trump. They both said that. They didn't agree with Trump on things, and that's totally fine. But when it came to serving the people that you are representing, if it requires you to swallow your pride and your thoughts about somebody so that you can come together to serve them and still hold to your values, whatever, but to serve them, then that by all means needs to be done, because they elected you based off of what you said you would do for them. And if it takes you united with the president of the United States to do that, then so be it. So Trump controls the purse, the resources, the leverage to actually deliver on those goals that Mondami has. And Mondami truly, I think, cares about the hardworking families. He constantly reiterated that during the questioning with the reporters. But if you want to care for those families in the Bronx and the Queens and every elsewhere in between, swallowing that pride and sitting across from the president is what's going to need to take place. And it's not weakness, it's actually wisdom. Proverbs 15:22 reminds us that plans fail for a lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And Trump's offering that counsel, and the results, I pray Mondami takes it. And I think that they are going to be working together, it seems like, with a very peaceful relationship. I do want to get to some of the things that they discussed in this meeting, because though they both have their own thoughts about each other and, name call each other, they didn't shy from that. I love that. This is what I love about Trump, is that he is who he is when the cameras are rolling and when they're not. So whether he was face to face on with Mondami or not, he that was his stance. And Mondami kind of, it seems like he took the same thing. Now, I felt like Mondami kind of calmed it down a little bit from his rhetoric he had when he won mayor, and I couldn't necessarily tell as if he was saying this to just be everything to everybody, because when he was in the meeting with President Trump, he mentioned that the people that voted for President Trump, because President Trump won an overwhelming number of New Yorkers for become president. And so he went to that side of New York and he said he asked them what made them choose Donald Trump and made them vote for Donald Trump. And they said that a lot of them cared about affordability and also their money not being tax dollars not being sent to fund endless wars. So he heard that, and that was a part of his campaign promise, right? That he wanted to bring down the cost of living, groceries, gas, all that, right? And then, he had his other people, because New York is a Democrat leaning city, state. And he went and asked those other people on the opposite side of this, what it would take to get their votes. I mean, this dude was strategic. He was very strategic, and he won. And they told, I feel like they gave him more of somebody less to stand against Trump and promise something different that we haven't seen that might actually would work. And this is where he comes in with the socialist policies. And but I think Trump, if you've ever read his book, The Art of the Deal, I feel like his moves are not far from what I'm seeing. I wanted to read that book because I wanted to understand the guy sitting in the White House. So Art of the Deal, he's finding common ground without compromising his core principles, right? Because the funny part is, or the little gold nuggets in the pot, is that ahead of this meeting, the House went to basically sign in a resolution that condemns socialism. Now, this is not something that is. This is something that still has to move through Congress, but I think what this kind of sets is a precedent that we stand together more than we are divided, which I love because since Trump's got elected, you just seen this constant divide. But at least here we can agree that we want capitalism more so than we want socialism. There are some Democrats that didn't agree to that, but their vote was small. Okay, you had an overwhelming number of Democrats that actually voted for that resolution to pass. You basically condemning socialism, you know, and of course, a ton of Republicans that agree with that as well. So, or all Republicans agreed with that too, and that was ahead of the visit with Donald Trump, which was I love that because I see that we're still upholding the Constitution because socialism is not a part of our Constitution. No way in that is that fulfilling what our forefathers wrote and inscribed for us. So, one thing that Trump laid out plain is he said this: we may have different paths to get there when it comes to the cost of living and what Mondani wants to do in the city, but we're aligned on the destination, meaning they both want to see affordability for New Yorkers. They want to see New York thrive. Okay, I know that's been always been Trump's heart, and it does seem like that is around Mondani's heart because he could have just sat on his butt and not really done much and just hope things would turn out well or be very defiant talking with Trump, but he knows he needs Trump. Okay. And so Trump straight up said that the Mondani he met wasn't the media caricature of a communist lunatic, though he still said that he believes that Mondani is a communist. Okay. So turns out if you skip the sound bites, which is why I like to, when I jumped on the political train and I started talking about Donald Trump, I brought you guys facts about what the media was lying about when it came to the different narratives and spins about Donald Trump and his policies, because I wanted straight up truth. And so I would intentionally listen to the cabinet meetings and every single meeting Donald Trump had live without the media, narratives or their commentary, should I say, because I didn't want to hear what they had to say because they were constantly being biased about every single thing and negative. And sometimes they'd make up stuff. And I just didn't like that. I'm like, just give me the truth. Like, you have a working Americans who don't have time to do all this research, and we're trusting you, the media, journalists, is your job to do that for us and bring us the truth so we can decide for ourselves. But instead, you're cooking up a narrative to push us a certain angle so that way we can start to live out and believe what you want us to. And I don't like that. I think we should have the freedom to choose, and by knowing the truth, which is also why I very much, and I'll probably bring this up again during this podcast, very much admire the guy that's on CNN. I keep forgetting his name. If you can shout it out for me. The guy that's on CNN who's a conservative. It's
Scott Jennings.
Thank you, Scott Jennings. I always forget his name, but I do admire him because when he had to sit down with Officer Tanton, Officer Tanton mentioned, like, you must complain every day going to CNN and having to work with those people. But he said, no, he actually kind of sees it as a calling, because how else would the people that watch CNN hear a different side if it wasn't for him being there? And so he sees it as a way to reach those people and to give them a different perspective. And then once they have the other side of it, they have to choose. Now they can choose, right? I admire that, the way he sees it. It's beautiful. But so back to the Mondani and Trump thing. So both of them agree. I mean, one reporter asked Mondani about his rhetoric calling Donald Trump a fascist. And he kind of was like, well, that wasn't Donald Trump. Said, no, just be plain. Just say what you believe. And he goes, well, yeah, I actually believe he's fascist. So he cut straight to the chase. And this is how Donald Trump is. He's very blunt. Sometimes he could be, some people may label him belligerent, but he's just he's not, a political type person. He's became that, but that wasn't his arena initially, right? So he doesn't have like the beautiful articulation as Obama, right? That's not him. And we appreciate him being him, because he tells us plainly exactly what he's going to do from the campaign trail to right now, right? And nothing is deterring him from his plans. But yes, and then, right after Mondani said, yeah, I still believe he's a fascist, Trump says, and I still believe he's a communist, but it's okay. We could disagree, but on the destination of what we want to do in New York City, we agree on that, right? So let me get to some of the things that were said in this meeting. if you didn't have a chance to watch the whole thing, like I said, I like to watch the whole thing. And Trump kept his normal style, which I love. This is the most transparent president that we've ever had, where after the meeting with Zoran, he talked about some things that they discussed, and then he opened it up for the media to blast them. Now, here is where I can say I really, really, really appreciated the media, because they did not hold back. They put the feet to the fire. Like, they were asking every question I think we as Americans wanted to know. And I'm just going to get to just those specific ones that I think we would probably want to know as a result of that meeting. What do you guys think about each other, and how are you going to work together? Right. So essentially, so I'm going to get to some of that. So first one I'm going to talk about is on the tax controversy. So a persistent reporter hammered Mondani on his old campaign site, promising to tax white neighborhoods. You remember that being base? He had this interview and with a news reporter, and basically the news reporter singled out that on his actual campaign page on social media, right? You can go look this up. He had that he wanted to tax white neighborhoods, like he labeled it white neighborhoods, to fund affordability programs. Okay, they went in straight and asked him. I'm really glad they didn't hold back. Okay, ask him this stuff. We need to know. This is what reporting looks like. This is great. And just a side note that before I get into what Mondani said, but Trump said that there were so much more news reporters out there for the meeting that he had with Mondami than there was with any other major leader that he's met with. Like, they were eating this up. But this was great. Okay, they asked the hard questions, and I'm really grateful for it. So we can get him to respond. So Mondani clarified twice, word for word, because he'd been asked this like twice. He says, I wasn't targeting race. It was about specific high wealth areas, locations with the resources to spare. My goal is affordability to every New Yorker, period. Fair enough. But let's be real. In a city as diverse as New York, that sloppy phrasing, like that, kind of lights a fuse. Trump stayed above the fray, but his presence forced accountability. And on foreign policy flashpoints, they touch Mondami's fiery past comments vowing to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. That was another thing they hit on. If he were to set foot in New York. And Trump said that they hadn't necessarily discussed Benjamin Netanyahu during their meeting, but they had plenty on the plate with the New York City priority. So it was classy deflection, kind of, but they keep the focus local. Let me see here. Okay, let me just get my notes, guys. All right. Okay, so here we go. With finding, I guess I'll go to. Let me go to this next one. Let me just pull up my notes on this side. I'll mention this one too. As they heard it out the door, reporters shoved a final question in, and Mondami straight up answered it, and he said it loud enough to where you could pick it up on camera. But I'm really glad for this question, because this was a concern of mine too. Because if you say you want to serve every New Yorker, then you have to serve every New Yorker, including the Jews. Okay, so which is a huge population there. I think it's the biggest that we have in any state. So it's super important. But the reporter shoved this question, Mr. Mayor, is what he said, with anti-Semitism spiking, how will you protect Jewish New Yorkers? And Mondami, he did not miss a beat on this, which I was really grateful for. He said, I will combat anti-Semitism, full stop. New York is for everyone. Music to my ears. Music to my ears. Because you have to serve everyone. Like, even Donald Trump has to serve everyone. You are the president of the United States. You are the mayor of the city. You have to serve everyone, even if they didn't vote for you. Okay. Even if you don't like them, you have to serve them. Okay. And then Trump nodded. You could see that, the Queen's buying him. One more angle the press drilled. And honestly, I think this is what MAGA folks like us were dying to hear: federal funding. So Trump teased cuts to sanctuary cities before, and a reporter asked point blank, any deals on HUD grants or infrastructure bucks if Mondani plays ball on immigration? This is how they phrased the question. Trump responded, New York's my home. We're going to make it great, not greater. If he helps on safety and affordability, he's got a partner in me. No games. And Mondami chimed in, we're focused on results for residents, not DC drama. And again, the quiet alignment spoke volumes, I think. So there you have them answering that question. Okay, and there was one I wanted to get to. I have it. I feel like I have it right on the tip of my brain. Okay, on crime and immigration, the question about Mondami's prior anti-ICE stance was also one. The reporter asked, "Will you continue opposing federal immigration enforcement in New York?" Trump said, "Look, we both want safer streets." Again, they were asked this multiple times. Crime has to come down. We agree on getting the rapists, the murderers out. I'm willing to work with him on this. New York's my home. We're going to make it great again. And Mondami did not respond to that. He just silently nodded, allowing Trump to basically take the lead on that when it came to the ICE agents and the enforcement of that. So he basically agreed that they wanted the rapists and stuff out. He didn't say, well, we kind of disagree there. So I don't know how that's going to play out necessarily, but it seemed to me like an alignment because he didn't say anything more. He just nodded when it came to that, because as you know, he kind of labeled ICE, I believe, like a terrorist organization. Uh, but here they seem to have found some common ground, which I think is definitely much needed. Okay. Um, I talked to you guys about the fascist comment already, but I'll say this. It says, on past insults, a reporter asked Mr. Mayor-elect, "Do you still believe President Trump is a fascist?" Trump interjecting with a grin. Um, and then Mondami says, Mondami kind of wanted to deflect a little bit, but Trump says, okay, you can say it. And Mondami says, yes, pretty sure I do. And then Trump says, and I still think you're a communist, but we're going to work together anyway. Okay. So that was really good. On taxes and campaign rhetoric. Reporter asks, your campaign site mentioned taxing, I mentioned that already, white neighborhoods. Okay, let's get down to, I think I might hit the ones that I wanted to hit. Okay. I think, okay, so those are the main ones I wanted to hit because I thought that those ones were ones that we wanted to know about. And some of those questions, guys, were asked multiple times by reporters. Okay. And Trump took the lead on some of them, and Mondami also spoke. Mondami was very much, the guy is you can see why he won mayor for sure. I mean, he's very articulate. He knows the lingo. He knows how to deflect. Like he got it down pack. Okay. I want to mention this too. Last one I'll mention, and then we'll move on to the next thing. But another reporter asked Mondami about the resolution that was passed, about for socialism. And he said that he deflecting. He said he was not focused on resolution, but he was focused on affordability for New Yorkers. So, answer, but not, you know what I mean? So, but again, he's definitely cut out for being a politician. So that's for sure. But yeah, so I thought the meeting seemed, again, positive and very productive. It seemed like they had some common ground. Like Trump said, they basically agree on almost anything and everything, but they just differ on how they're going to get there. And Trump's not going to, I don't believe he's going to cater to some of the ways that Mondami has said that he wants to get there. Trump has his own means of doing that. And I think that Mondami could definitely learn a lot from Trump because Trump's a businessman. He lives in New York all his life. He loves New York. He's made millions in New York, billions in New York. And, and now he's president of the United States, right? So, I mean, I think this could be a really good partnership. This is another alliance Trump made. And again, like I said, if you read Art of the Deal, you kind of understand more of Trump because he's always willing to sit down with you, right? But if you come hardball and you start saying all these claims and stuff, then you're going to have to back that up, right? You just lost him. But he always is willing. Even when it came to the tariffs, we saw that over and over again. He said, I'm going to give this as the tariffs unless they come to the table. Okay, right? He said that one of the things he's excellent at, and many people have said that, even people in Shark Tank have said they've never seen somebody negotiate the way this man does. And so, like I said, if you read Out of the Deal, you'll kind of understand where he's coming from when it comes to making these alliances, and maybe more so why he does them. Okay, why he makes these certain alliances. Okay, now I want to get to the next one because we have I'm sure we put up that asset about the Texas governor. Let me insert this before I get to my next topic because I also want to say this because so much happened this week, guys, or even just yesterday. But here's another thing that I want you guys to be aware of. The Texas governor Abbott, he designated CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood, as a terrorist organization. So that stops their building of the Epic City in Texas and stops a lot, by the way. If we have that, there we go. Yeah. Now, I know that's Mondami's face, but this was a picture that I picked up on social media, and I thought it was funny and put up because he is a socialist. And he also does not condemn the Muslim Brotherhood. so it's appropriate. But yeah, so this is happening in Texas. I saw a lot of comments of people saying we need this in every single state in New York, in not New York, every single state in the United States, and I totally 100% agree on that. Socialism, by the way, if we looked at Cuba, Venezuela, um, Soviet Union, it has not worked. Okay, it does not work long term. So this is why we don't want this, and this is not what our nation is built on. The Constitution, when you read through that and what we stand, it more so leans to the capitalism than anything, right? And that's what we talk about, the American dream. But how can you have the American dream if you're not able to, get out of the tax brackets? You're not able to build something for yourself because you're always on government assistance and all these, different things. It just kills an innovation because you're just relying on the government. And I've said before in my podcast that when I look at apartment buildings, even if you can look at this at the local level, there are brand new apartment buildings that have been built near me here in South Carolina. And I mean, the thing is so beautiful. I wish I was the one that built those apartment buildings. They're so beautiful. But then you have people that come in and they destroy it. They don't have, and I know some people can say, well, that could happen anywhere. It could happen anywhere. But what you see, if you look at the empirical value of different things, is that people that own something, where you have to fight for that thing, where you put your blood, sweat, and tears into that thing, have a different appreciation than somebody who doesn't own it. Right. And that's what government assistance does. It kind of keep you in this place where you're leaning on it. And if we don't have ownership of that, then you have people walking around without a care in the world, right? Even if you look at, this is like an immaturity mindset, but that's just how it is. Like, that's why you have David in the Bible who says, I will not give God something that costs me nothing. And when it cost him something, he had a whole different approach to his relationship with God versus, the prior king. So it's very important. I think that, and I think Trump, this is something he's reiterated too, is that like we want more ownership. And I don't think the 50-year mortgages is a whole nother topic, guys. I don't think that's a good idea, but he has talked about ownership. He has talked about less government and those different things. I just got an update. Mondami took massive amounts of money from CARE. Yeah. So, I mean, that picture was fitting. Okay. So like it or not. Okay. So next thing I want to get into, because I had some people, I've seen some of the comments. I don't see all of you guys' comments on my Facebook and other, like I said, I missed one a week. I miss all my YouTube comments too, but it's because guys, I have an assistant that comes in maybe once a month or whatever, and I have a lot of emails and I have a lot of different places where I receive messages from Turning Point USA, from my own brand deals, for, all that. So I try to see your stuff. Just know that some of my stuff on Facebook, they're already drafted and they're ready to post on, themselves. Then some things when I get as a headline, I post that myself right in real time, and I can check your comments and stuff like that too. But other times, and then there are some times where I see a comment and I'm like, it's not worth my time. It's too long of an answer, and I don't have time to go back and forth with you today. So I just won't answer. But yeah, so I saw this comment though. Somebody was like, I don't remember who, and I'm not going to single them out, but I saw some comments saying, Epstein Files. Why even say anything about the Epstein Files, etc. Right? Trump says that his thing with the Epstein Files. We're going to get into that next. Is that they are a distraction, right? And I do believe that this was definitely something that the Democrats use. If they could take anything, any form of criticism of this current administration, they are going to run with it. And why not? Why not? I mean, their ratings are poor right now, so they're doing what they can to kind of slander the administration, or at least point out some negatives about the administration so they don't have as much support, right? Um, and with that being said, before I say more, I just received an update, I believe this morning, from a friend that MTG, Marjorie Taylor, or as Trump says, Trader Green, is set to resign. And this is a poor time for her to do that, in my opinion, because that leaves a lot of the work that Trump still needs to do. We're talking about passing spending. He still has to pass, spending bills and his agenda and tariffs and all the stuff. And with her dropping out, it just takes, I believe, 2 votes for, Republicans, two nay votes, and then Democrats win. So, I mean, it's a heavy hitter for her to do this. Now, I have kind of researched it. I don't know if it's changed as of right now, but when I researched it a few hours ago, she didn't submit anything in formal letter, nor did she tell Speaker Mike Johnson and others that she was going to resign. She just dropped a video first. I'm not sure how to take that. Maybe that's normal, but She just dropped a video first citing why she wants to do that. I went back and forth with a good friend of mine on this, and she was like, I do think it's probably related to the fact that she has received more death threats. But when you look at the history of MTG, who did have a security detail, she did have her own security at one point. She had been receiving death threats and doxing and all that. Like, that's been going on way before Donald Trump said any rhetoric about her being a traitor, and before she started, all this disagreeing with him. But I think the fact that she went on a View, and the fact that Donald Trump said that he hadn't been answering her calls anymore, and he wasn't going to endorse her, all these things, and it may be also included in that the death threats, which I hate that any politician, whether they agree with Trump or not, has to go through that. I think we need tighter laws on that. I think we need, because that's not free speech right there. That's just not that. I think we need to have a task force for media, like when it comes to just death threats. Like, you shouldn't be threatening anybody, taking their life. That's kind of crazy that you feel bold enough to do that and you say that, like, write that online. But anyways, a friend of mine said that was that. I honestly don't believe it's just that. I believe it's so much. I believe it's more than just her receiving death threats, because you look at Donald Trump. This man has been almost assassinated a few times already. He he receives death threats. You had Charlie Kirk, who received death threats. You have Benny Johnson, who received death threats. You have, Megan Kelly and many others, right? And they are still grinding. They're still doing what they feel called to do. Trump said he feel called to serve as president, which is why he fought so hard for it, right? So, I mean, if maybe she doesn't feel called to it, I don't know, but like, if you really want to serve, those people, I feel like, even me, like, I've talked with a friend of mine, especially in the wake of what happened to Charlie Kirk. I prayed about this, and I'm like, God, if you want me to step in this position of politics and all that, then I understand that standing for truth, whether that is an arena of politics or not, could cost you your life. I mean, look at Jesus. Look at, and he said that no servant is greater than their master, right? And she says that she's a Christian, and this is just not anything that's new. It's scary, of course, I know, but it's not something I think you can step into and say you won't experience, right? It's just it is part of it, unfortunately. So I don't know. I think, if I get down to the essence of it, I believe that it's just more than just her death threats, or more than just her saying what she said in that X video. My personal opinion. But back to the Epstein Files. Okay, let's break it down quick and clean, because you guys deserve the real story, not the CNN spin. This all kicked off months ago. Back in February, you had AG Pam Bondi, right? We'll start there, where she dropped a teaser, right, saying, "Oh, it's on my desk," on Fox News. Very, very. I love what my producers. I love how they word this. Very poor messaging, because it's very dangerous for her to say that and then not necessarily actually know what she had on her desk. Because now, you already had the American people on edge from Russia, from the Russia hoax to all of this, and then we get to this place where we have the Trump administration, who we voted because of transparency, and you say you got it on your desk, and all of a sudden you're trying to backtrack that. It doesn't look good, right? But it was mostly old news. It left folks really upset and distraught, because we voted in that administration and we believed in that transparency. Then we fast forward to July. The DOJ and the FBI wrap an exhaustive review and say that there's no client list, which I honestly believe there's no client list, because if you look at where this even started, it started from the victim's lawyer. I believe his name is Brad Edwards something, where he basically said that he had everything. He had a list, a contact list, etc. But in turn, it was just a black book of, the contact list of Jeffrey Epstein, right? And that's what it was. It wasn't necessarily a client list, like these are the people. It was just a list of contacts. It's kind of like my phone has a list of contacts. That's what he had. But this whole thing spin off with people doing conspiracy theories and saying there is a client list, right? That's kind of where it started. If you go back and look through it, that's where it started. That lawyer stating that, and then people coming in, commentators saying otherwise. But no blackmail bombshells. Epstein, so they say that there's no client list, there's no blackmail bombshells. Epstein offed himself. And do you know what happened? We had Conspiracy Central exploding after that. So then Trump's base, including firebrands like MTG, start hollering for the full drop. And this was great for the Dems, because you can expect they weaponized it, like we just discussed, and dredging up an ancient Trump Epstein golf pick like it's 1999. and just to find out that he never went to the island, and they were trying to pin it as if he victimized a woman, and that woman stated on record that Trump never touched her. So I think if there were any incriminating evidence, I believe that they would have they would have tried to put that out during the Biden administration. I mean, they were going hard after Trump. Like, why would they stop there? Why would they stop with the Epstein file? It makes no sense unless there's something more in there to hide. So by September, the House Oversight Committee subpoenas the state and unleashes over 53,000 pages, emails, notes, and the works, okay? Naming big shots like Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, and even Prince Andrew, who's already lost his tiara over this mess. Pressure keeps mounting. Finally, Trump reiterates again to release everything and then enters the bill. Now, first, first Trump was saying, let release everything, right? Then he said, this is literally a hoax. This is just something drawn up by the Democrats to get us distracted because we have an agenda to fulfill. And I do not think that Trump was wrong, because if you look at the fact that MTG just resigned, that's going to hurt his agenda, right? And this is only like his first full year, almost at the first full year. I don't think he was at all wrong in that when you look at the results of it right now. Right? I do think, now no disrespect to the victims. Please hear me. I do believe that that everything should be released for the public to see and to know, since there's such distrust of the federal government. Redact the victim's name. I would have even said that people that may have never went to the island, never was mentioned by a victim, probably should not be involved in there maybe either, because you're just basically making every American who's never gotten a law degree a lawyer. And I think that's dangerous, to be honest, but this is what we're crying about. So here, release it. And we go from there, right? Maybe we'll have, Tucker Carlson or some other kind of help us to weave through this. People that actually have the resources to do that. I don't know. And I by no means watch Tucker Carlson like that, but he did release something really good when the Thomas Crook thing. Okay, that got the media finally talking about it. So, and the FBI, I believe, looking more into it. So yeah, or at least putting out a statement. So we have that. Trump releases everything, and then we enter into this bill called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Cooked up by the unlikely allies, Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna. They're demanding every unclassified crumb from the DOJ's vault. So, and then November 18th, the House crushes it with a vote of 427 to 1. Only Louisiana's Clay Higgins voted no for that. So probably because he got better things to do than play gotcha Senate. But unanimous consent the same day. Boom. Of course, Trump did not waste any time. He went ahead and signed it so that once it got on his desk, so that way everything could be released to the public. Okay. No time wasted, nothing. Okay. And then he put this on Truth Social. He said that he just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. Okay. The Democrats thought this hoax would hurt us. Backfire incoming. Okay. And we start to see that there is a lot of mess. I'm not even going to get into oh God, I'm drawing a blank. She's black. She's loudmouth, and try to backtrack her statements about Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, when he found out that when she was mentioning it, he was actually a doctor, not the same Jeffrey Epstein who had an island.
Jasmine Crockett.
Thank you so much. You're the best, Jasmine Crockett. Guys, I think I'm still in that postpartum phase. Okay, so bear with me. So so Jasmine Crockett. I'm not going to dive into her thing, but if you listen to her interview retracting what she said, you can tell that she thinks that we're stupid. Okay, that we didn't hear what she said, and the way that she's backtracking it's just common sense that she's just trying to cover her butt. I believe she still is covered, right? Because she was on the Senate floor when she made those claims. Just go look into it, guys. I'm gonna leave it there because I don't want to get into it more here. I got a little bit of time with you guys, and I want to finish this Epstein file thing. So, we got a master haul coming in with this Epstein file. It's over 100,000 pages of docs plus 300 plus gigabytes of data, hard drives, and videos. That's not a beach read. Okay, we're talking about weekends with highlighters and all that. If you plan on diving in on this, okay. To all the ex-warriors who've been wailing for years about the list and the cover up, congrats, you won. And fair warning, this isn't just some Netflix binge material. Okay, like I mentioned, is 100,000 pages of dense dark truth. So I hope you take the time to look through it because you've been screaming about it. I hope you take the time to look through it yourself and not just wait on commentaries from different people. Okay. Now, let's tie all this in. Why all this matters, guys. I want you to hear me on this because I think when we talk about alliance, the conservative movement, I see something that I want to point out, and I don't know if you've seen this, but here's what I see. Okay, this is why it all matters. Before we go, I want to zoom out for a second and tell you why weeks like this one fire me up more than any rally ever could. Nicki Minaj at Mar-a-Lago, Zoran Mondani shaking hands in the Oval Office, 100,000 pages of Epstein darkness about to see daylight. And yeah, I even get a little magazine feature. Thank you, Jesus. But on the surface, these feel like random headlines, right? But underneath, they're all proof of the same quiet miracle I've watched for years. I think real conservatism done with boldness, with facts, with moral clarity, without apology, has a supernatural habit of leading people straight to Jesus. And I think that Charlie Kirk knew this, and I believe that that's why he was so vocal. I remember watching a debate with him talking about abortion and his stance on that. And one woman that came up, it was a young a college student who came up, and I believe she said she was a Christian, but she was like, if you don't use your if you don't use religion to justify what you're saying, he said, I'm okay using logic and if I can say empirical value to talk to you about this without inciting anything religious. So if you want to take that stance, right? And so he debates her, and one of the things she says is like, um the baby is apart, and he says no, the baby's attached. She goes, no, the baby's apart. So if the baby's a part of you, it's a part of your body, then her case was that you can do whatever you want with your body, and if that kid is a part of your body, you should be able to murder that child. And Charlie Kirk said, no, apart and attached are very different. Apart means that's a permanent piece of you. That baby is going to leave you soon. It can't stay with you forever. So that's why we say attached, because it's a temporary thing. And he just goes in, and he makes so much sense. And I believe this girl, when she hears it, and and he allows her, and he was very calm. He allowed her to vent and say what she believed, but then he countered it with just truth, just logic, like leaving out the religious portion of it, just morality, just the understanding of it. And I think that conservatism that does lead, when you break it down and you get to the core of it, and you're able to talk about these issues. Like I mentioned, the guy on CNN, Scott Jennings, he talked about conservatism. I do think that it yields, that it has this supernatural habit, like I said before, of leading people straight to Jesus, right? Because it's the conservative things, that we talk about. All of these things is basically biblical if you think about it. Charlie Kirk gets mocked for debating college kids, but thousands of those clips have sent atheists running to baptism waters because they finally heard someone defend the truth with joy instead of anger and have actual facts to back it up. And then, if you've ever seen Wes Huff, he is a historian, I believe, and he debated Billy uh, Carson and totally demolished this guy. This guy, Billy Carson, had millions upon millions of subscribers, and for a long time, he spit this whole atheist type thing, and he cited different texts and stuff, and sounded very educated and put together. But until he met Wes Huff, and Wes Huff, having an expertise in this field, he just totally obliterated Billy Carson about the Bible. And I went to the comment section because that, if you haven't seen that, you got to check it out. That thing blew up. It had millions of views on it. And if you check the comment section, people were saying, I saw comments, people, atheists, saying, I was an atheist and I was listening to Billy Carson, and after hearing Wes Huff in this debate, I'm gonna give my life to Jesus. And then you saw people that said that they had been listening to Billy Carson, and then basically kind of lost faith in Jesus, and not believing in the Bible, and lost faith in Christianity. And then after hearing Wes Huff, they were rededicating their life. So I do believe that there's something to be had when you have the dialogue and you're able to talk, and there's some conservatism. And I do believe that that could definitely yield straight to Jesus, because I keep seeing it. And it's not politics winning. I think that's the Holy Spirit riding shotgun on unashamed truth. When we refuse, I'm sorry, to hate the person, but and we refuse to bless the sin, when we speak with wisdom, dignity, and zero fear, the way Jesus did with the woman at the well, something breaks in people. They get mad at first, and sometimes they scream, sometimes they threaten. Some want you canceled because the light you're carrying exposes the lifestyle they're clinging to. But the ones whose hearts aren't completely hardened, they feel the tug. And many of them end up on their knees. And I love what Myron Golden said. If you check him out, he's awesome. He's an entrepreneur, Christian man, and he says, "Some will, some won't. So what? next. And I believe that's the same approach Jesus took. Like if he is, preaching to the masses, even the Pharisees, even though he came for the sick, the Pharisees heard it. So all of them got invited in, and it was at the end of the day their choice. And that's why I believe Charlie keeps holding those open debates. That's why Trump keeps the tent massive and the table wide. That's why a socialist mayor can walk out of the Oval smiling, and a rapper the world calls demonic starts quoting scripture on her timeline. Because when you lead with truth wrapped in strength and grace, you don't just win elections, you win souls. And I think at the end of the day, that's what my heart is. So yeah, celebrate the policy wins. We share the headlines, read the Epstein Files when they drop, but never forget, every time we stand unapologetically for what is right, we're not just conserving a nation, we're fishing for men. And the cool part, Jesus told us the nets come up full when we obey him, even when the fish look nothing like us. Okay, that's the story of this week, guys. That's the story of this moment, this movement that we're in right now. And as long as we keep speaking truth and love, that's the story of millions of lives still to come. And what a president! What a week that we've had. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button, depending on where you're watching from, or the follow button. Make sure to like. If you want to leave comments down, please feel free to do that. If you have a different perspective, that's fine. You can leave that down below as well. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for episode 25. I hope that you felt encouraged. I hope that this gave you different lens if you saw things differently than I do. I hope you can consider that. And for my ladies that are grinding and doing their whole thing, I check out my article with South Carolina Voyager. I want that article to do nothing else but encourage you and your wherever you are in grinding, or your walk with starting your own business, or working just for someone, doesn't matter. I hope it encourages you though. That God has everything under control. And if you trust him, if you're in his perfect will, you don't really have to worry about anything, even if you don't really know what's next. Okay. His perfect will is a perfect place to be. Okay, guys. So I want to thank you so much for being with me. And until next week, I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.